questions of life, from the Shire to the lonely mountain and everything in between. Part 4, more than a story. Well, I've spent the last 3 videos romanticising and thinking about that great call of God, that he invites us to be part of his story in the world, and reflecting on how that's connected with The Hobbit. And this evening, what I'm going to be thinking about is how Gandalf calls Bilbo on this wonderful adventure. Well, what really strikes me is that when Bilbo first meets Gandalf, he looks at him and he says this: Gandalf, Gandalf, good gracious me, not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magic diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone till ordered. Not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants and rescue of princesses and the unexpected lunch of the widow's son. Not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks. I remember those. Old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid. They used to go up like great lilies and snapdragons and laburnums of fire and hang in the twilight all evening. And what Bilbo does when he sees Gandalf is he looks back and he remembers Gandalf from his childhood. He thinks of all the magical things he did, of the diamond studs and the fireworks and the stories of dragons. And he sees Gandalf as this romantic storytelling magic conjurer. And actually, I think when I was thinking about this, isn't that how we often treat Jesus? And when we look back at the stories we learnt as children at Sunday school, for example, and we think about Noah's Ark and Jonah and all these stories, and we think, and they have a kind of a nostalgic connection for us, and we think, oh, weren't they great stories, and didn't they teach me good moral truths, and wouldn't that be great for my children? And I think that's part of what Bilbo's expressing, that kind of nostalgic, romantic view of the past. How often I think Christianity is treated like that. But what's really fascinating is how we see Gandalf respond. And Gandalf says to him, Where else should I be, said the wizard. All the same, I am pleased to find you remember something about me. So he's pleased that he remembers something. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly at any rate, and that is not without hope. Indeed, for your poor old grandfather Took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I will give you what you ask for. I beg your pardon, I haven't asked for anything, said Bilbo. Yes, you have. Twice now, said Gandalf. My pardon, I give it to you. In fact, I will go so far as to send you to an adventure, very amusing for me and very good for you, and profitable too, very likely, if you ever get over it. And what we see here is Gandalf being far more than that romantic storyteller that Bilbo remembers. And he doesn't say that's a bad thing. He says that's a good thing, that you can remember who I am. But there's more to me, and I'm inviting you on an adventure that will change your life. It could have great risk or great reward. And it reminds me really of when Jesus calls his first disciples. And as Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, said Jesus, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. See, Gandalf, like Jesus, is calling Bilbo to a greater adventure. It actually means to do something. It's not just teachings, it's not just magic party tricks, it's not just warm romantic nostalgia. It's adventure and something exciting, a future, but actually a risky one, because it could have great reward or great risk. He doesn't guarantee that, but he invites Bilbo to something. And I think that's what people often mistake about the Christian faith, that we just want to sit there, tell stories and tell you what to do. It's all about what you must do, what you must remember, and remembering all these old stories. But actually, like here in The Hobbit, when Gandalf calls Bilbo to an adventure, that is what Jesus is doing. He's calling you to a life. Now, I think what's interesting here, and a reflection, and what makes it difficult for us to accept in our modern society, is that Jesus says, "Come, follow me." He doesn't say, think about what you want, make up your own truth, whatever suits you. He's like, come and follow me. And I think that can be deeply off-putting for people, because it's following him rather than constructing our own preferred choice about who he is. He's like, come and follow me, take me as I am. But where I will take you will be a place of reward, and it's a good place, a place of good news. Someone said to me recently, I didn't realise that the Christian faith was good news. And it is. But there's no guarantee of a smooth, easy future. As we'll find out as I explore more in these readings on The Hobbit and connecting them to the Christian faith. But ultimately there is a hope and a reward of a life that includes deep friendship and adventure and something exciting. I think the question for us is, are we able to just follow and step out, much against like the cultural currents of our time, step out and follow someone for who they are? But actually, what many Christians can relate to is when they've made that step of faith, that they've had a life worth living, a life of excitement and a life of adventure. I'd encourage you to explore this person who steps into lives and calls people to an adventure, to look beyond the romantic, nostalgic Sunday school stories that were told to you as a child, and the moral teachings, but look to the life that you are called, that Jesus is calling you to.